going on, everybody? Tello podcast, back with another episode, and today we're continuing our divisional series when it comes to looking at every NFL division and predicting records, looking at their schedules, seeing how the playoff implications look. Today I am here visited with my good friend Jackson Criner. He's a Panthers fan himself, so that's why I brought him on today for the NFC South edition. Would you like to introduce yourself, say a little thing about yourself?
Yeah, hello. I'm Jackson, obviously, and I currently live here with Bryce in Boise, Idaho, and I'm doing kind of my own thing, and yeah.
All right, and just to let y'all know, I'll put down any social media if you want to follow him. I know he's got a lot of cool stuff that he puts out. A lot of just really good stuff, and I like for instance the new app with Threads. He'll put stuff on there, and I'll look at it, and it's pretty uplifting, pretty motivating stuff. So,
Thank you.
and yeah, so I'll put that in the description as well, and then on the YouTube, and then shout it out on the Instagram as well. But we'll get into what we're talking about today, and today is the NFC South, the worst division from last year. The division winner was 8-9, and then got absolutely humiliated by Dallas, and that was Tampa Bay. However, things are going to change, in my opinion. I think we're going to see a new divisional winner this year. It's a division that's up for grabs, I think, between 2-3 teams this year.
Yeah.
I would say probably the two big ones would probably be our two favorite teams, the Saints and the Panthers.
Not to be biased, but yeah.
And even though the Panthers just drafted number one overall, it wasn't their pick originally. It was the Bears' pick. They were supposed to be ninth, and they've got their new guy with Bryce Young. They're hoping to hopefully have that as their guy of the future. And then we got a team like Atlanta, who's also looking for their guy of the future with Desmond Ridder, which you'll hear about my opinions on him later. But anyways, I think we're going to get started, go on to the first team, showcase the little schedule, and talk about records for this team. And that's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. If you're watching here on YouTube, you can see on the screen, you'll see the Atlanta Falcons schedule. And basically, I can let you start off what you think about Atlanta. And
Yeah, so with Atlanta, I'm definitely think they're going to be improving this year, especially with they had some QB issues with switching back and forth, but I definitely think Desmond Ridder's probably going to be a bit more into himself. And as far as defensive goes, definitely think they focused mainly on improving the defense. We're going to see if that turns out to be true this season. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat here. You could tell by the fact that they targeted a lot of defensive backs. They were really trying to fix that problem with their passing defense. They've notoriously been known as having a lot of problems on the defensive side of the ball, known as having a lot of chokes, having a lot of comebacks on them, and you saw them go out and get a guy like Jesse Bates, who is a top 10 safety, probably top 5 safety in the entire NFL, which is a big key add to them. But the biggest thing I want to say about the Falcons is their re-signing of Chris Lindstrom, their offensive guard. He is an incredible lineman. I thought, to be honest, the Bears would be some team to pursue him because they need that fix. However, he went back to Atlanta, and all these little pieces together, including the new addition with Bijan Robinson, who's going to be probably one of the top 10 running backs of this next NFL season as a rookie, which is pretty surprising. You don't see that all the time. But with that good of an offensive line, I think their rushing attack is going to be something huge for their offense, which it was last year. But that will get me started with the schedule. I think a lot of the games that they do win will be because of their superiority on the ground. I love Desmond Ridder. I loved watching him at Cincinnati. I don't think he's their guy yet. He needs to develop a little more. But that's just what I view from him. He's got a good weapon in Drake London. But other than that, I mean, there's really no big name guys for the Falcons. I think this will be another year of a little bit of disappointment for the Falcons. For me especially, I think the first half of the season will be their brighter spot. I think that's where they get 4 or 5 wins in the first half of the season. Second half of the season, I would say they struggle, only win about one or two games.
Yeah, do we want to go through game by game, kind of see, like, do you think they're going to win and lose from here?
Yeah, I can do that. So for Atlanta, I think they start the season off strong. I do see them taking a win against Carolina. I think that's just because it's going to be Bryce Young's first game. Is he going to be able to transition to the NFL play?
Okay.
I think that's where the whole additions that the Falcons made will kind of be like a little bit of an overreaction. Like, wow, these are really good additions. Could see maybe a Jesse Bates interception in week 1. Have a good game from Bijan Robinson. I think the running game is gonna be what they establish that game.
Yeah, it was interesting, especially with I was kind of surprised that them go draft a running back first round, especially with a lot of the other needs they needed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's definitely going to be he's definitely going to be a top proponent for their team.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what Arthur Smith was thinking about was getting the best player available instead of targeting a need for the roster. I mean,
Okay.
Tyler Algier, he had a great rookie season last year, a 1,000-yard rusher for Atlanta, but they went out and said basically, hey, that's not enough. We want a guy who could be the next Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, Carolina once again. I definitely think they could be starting out strong, but you do have a great point with understand like them coming out a bit wonky with learning how they're gonna use their quarterbacks, how they're gonna especially with the new coaches in there. And I could see Atlanta winning this one. So I guess we can mark it down 1-0, moving on to the next one.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to say the next 3 because I think the next 3 games will kind of follow a similar pattern. I think the next 3 games will be all 3 losses because of the fact that I feel like the Packers, the Lions, and the Jags will be able to attack the Falcons' secondary. I have a lot of hope and trust in Jordan Love. I hope he does good for the Packers. I see him doing that with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. Detroit is my big team. They were my big sleeper team of last year, and they finished with 9-8, almost made the playoffs. I think that Detroit's a team that probably will win their division. So I've got those 2 as losses. And then Jacksonville's another division winner.
They're in London, dude, it looks like.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville's in for...
That was their first win last year was in London.
And you saw how that ended up.
They took that W.
Yeah, and Jacksonville made the playoffs for the first time since 2017 when they went to the conference championship. They've got an absolute stud in Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see, and for me, I see, if you heard in the last episode, everyone, Trevor Lawrence, I said, was that guy that I could see making that Jalen Hurts leap in that Josh Allen type leap in year 3. Year 2, year 3, that's just something I see from Trevor Lawrence, and I don't see Atlanta being able to stop that in week 4. So at that point, I've got Atlanta at 1-3.
Fair, yeah.
And as for the next 2 games with Houston and Washington, I gave Atlanta both of these games. The reason I give Atlanta both these games is I think Houston and Washington are going to be bottom 5 teams. They're going to be bottom feeders in this league for the 2023 season. Houston's just super young. They don't have the very much veteran presence. I mean, you look at it. Houston, they got their new guy in C.J. Stroud. They've got a lot of young guys with like Derek Stingley at the corner with the star corner, and then Jalen Petre at safety, and then they just drafted Will Anderson Jr. I don't see Houston being able to compete, really. It could be a little bit of a close game, though. Atlanta, you never know what happens with them.
Yeah.
They could always be up or down. And then Washington, I also think Washington's going to be a bottom 5 team. I would love to see Sam Howell have a good year, having his first full starting year now that Heineke is gone, who's actually, funny enough, on the Falcons now, just signed with him. And Wentz is gone. He got cut. So I think those 2 games are wins for Atlanta. That puts them at 3-4 heading into week 8.
Tampa. You have Tampa winning and losing.
So here's the thing with Tampa is I'm going to say right now, Tampa, in my opinion, is going to be one of the worst teams in the league.
Okay.
But you can't always say, oh, this team's that bad. I think they're going to be 0-17. Tampa could possibly do that, but I don't think they will. I think Tampa actually gets a little bit of a surprise win here against Atlanta.
No, I think Atlanta takes this one.
You think Atlanta wins this one?
Yeah, for sure.
See, here's my thing with it is I gave Tampa this one because it's in Tampa. I think Desmond Ridder gets a little bit rattled by Tampa's defense. Tampa still has the defense, very similar defense from last year. So that's why I gave Tampa the little upset. I mean, I didn't give Tampa very many wins, so but I had to give them one. I had to. It was kind of a just to give them a game to give them a game.
All right, Tennessee win and loss. It's at Tennessee.
I gave Tennessee the win. I talked about this a couple days ago with Tennessee. I think this is around the time where Will Levis becomes the starting quarterback for Tennessee, and I think he has a little bit of a boom to start his season, but then he'll fizzle down into like a normal quarterback.
Okay.
So I'll give Tennessee the win. So that puts Atlanta at, I believe, 3-6 at this time. What do you think? Are you thinking that or no?
Yes, and I was gonna say loss against Minnesota.
I would also agree with a loss of actually. You know what?
So?
I gave Atlanta the win here, I believe.
How come?
The reason I gave Atlanta the win here is because Minnesota. Okay, this might just be bias and my hatred towards the Vikings.
Yeah.
But the Minnesota kind of seems like a Viking-esque team with their defense. Their defense is not very reliable at times. The only time they were really reliable, I would say, last year was when they made that comeback against Indianapolis. Then again, they were going against Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
So I think this is a game where Kirk Cousins underperforms. He's always got one or two games in the season that he does that. Kirk Cousins underperforms. Justin Jefferson, I still think, has a good game against A.J. Terrell. But I think Atlanta really is able to establish the run game again, like kind of with the Carolina game that I said. They have established the run game, and that's the reason why Atlanta wins that game. I think that's a big upset that Atlanta gets against Minnesota.
Dude, you throw up a great argument right there. I just feel like, I don't know, Minnesota being, obviously, you mentioned that Kirk Cousins just kind of has those duds every once in a while, but I don't think Atlanta's going to be one of those teams who does have a dud.
That's true. That's fair.
Especially with their, with history, weaker passing defense. I definitely think Kirk Cousins is going to be balling out in this game. So I would honestly give Minnesota the win here.
I respect that. That's a reasonable thing. I agree with the whole Atlanta defensive problems because that's been a thing. They've always struggled with passing defense. They were one of the worst last year. But heading into, we'll go the last game before the bye week, which is the Arizona Cardinals. I gave them a win. I don't think there's very much to talk about. It's self-explanatory. I think Arizona, with the Kyler Murray health problems, is undeniably going to be the worst team in the NFL. I would say so. So heading into their bye, I don't know about you, but I have them with surprisingly 5 wins. They're going into their bye with 5 wins and 5 losses. They're going into week 11 at 5-5. However, I think the second half of the season is when they start to plummet down. I think this is when every other team starts getting it all together. Not to be biased, they got to play New Orleans twice, and New Orleans is recent years has been known for being able to stop Atlanta. And I mean, Cam Jordan always has his best games every year against Atlanta. So that's why starting off with the first 2 games, I'm going to say that New Orleans and the New York Jets both beat Atlanta and by a pretty big margin. I think it's because I think Derek Carr will have a great game against the Atlanta Falcons. It's kind of like what you said. The pass defense struggles. I think they have a little bit of a gap struggle here. Derek Carr has got a lot of great weapons. No Devontae Adams guy like he did last year, but he's still got guys like Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed. But I got New Orleans winning that game, putting Atlanta at 5-6, and then going to 5-7 the very next week. After, I think, just getting manhandled by the Jets. I think the Jets will just outmatch them by a lot on both sides of the ball.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
That makes mine
Aaron Rodgers.
A lot better than... Sorry, keep going.
You're good. Aaron Rodgers just he's got his guy in Garrett Wilson now. I think Garrett Wilson's going to be great this next season. So, and I mean, the Jets defense was already pretty great last year, despite having a very young team. And I mean, they've got
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner, they got DJ Reed, so they've got one of the best cornerback duos in the entire league. Bryce Hall as well. Yep. And then they just extended Quinnen Williams recently, and they extended Quincy Williams. So they've got those two new guys. I think Quan Alexander is still on the Jets, and I love him. He's a great player. C.J. Mosley just had himself an All-Pro year last year at age 32, 33. Like, he's pretty old, and he's got an All-Pro year. It's incredible. But that's what I got him at 5-7. You agreeing with me on those two with losses for Atlanta?
Yes.
All right, and then so the next two we've got divisional games.
Okay.
Tampa Bay and Carolina. I think they split these. They're going to beat Tampa Bay. This is the game where they finally get it together against Tampa Bay, unlike the last time for me. And they'll just straight out beat them. Tampa Bay, once again, bad. Going to be bad. And then Carolina. I think Carolina, this is Bryce Young has gotten into his groove,
Okay.
and Bryce Young will be able to kind of dot up this Atlanta defense.
Agreed. Yeah, we'll get to the Panthers once we get to them, but definitely think by this time of the year we're going to have most of the kinks kind of settled and rocking and rolling.
Oh, yeah. So that's got, for me, I've got the Falcons at 6-8 right now. And I'm gonna be up front right now just so I can be done with Atlanta because I don't really like to talk much about Atlanta.
Yeah.
The next three games, I actually have them losing all three. I think, once again, with Indianapolis, I think Anthony Richardson will kind of be a little bit more established. He's still going to be a very raw prospect, a very big project, but his running attack is going to be absolutely insane. And the same thing with the next team they play with Chicago Bears. Justin Fields, I think, is going to have a better season passing-wise with the newly acquired DJ Moore from Carolina. And Justin Fields with his legs, like always, he'll be able to stop that. I think that game will be up to which defense doesn't suck more.
Yeah, and I think bottom line, I don't see Falcons, even being a contender for the division. I definitely think they would get a contender for number 3 in the division, but yeah, I mean, either way, I don't think they were winning more than 8-7 games.
Yeah, and for me, I've got them obviously losing to New Orleans to end the season. So for me, that sits them at 6-11, third in the division. That's what I've got. I think you had a couple win-losses switched up in there. I think you were around 6 or 7.
Yeah, I do, but I also do think they're going to be coming out at number 3. I just don't see them being so terrible that they're not going to be worse than my number 4 option.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty obvious and evident number 4 in this division, but that's got both of us, Atlanta, third place. I've got them at 6-11. My big things about them is their coach, Arthur Smith, he's on a big hot seat. We don't know what's going to be coming for him, what's going to be up next for him. And then, as we said, all those guys they just got could be key additions. But then again, I don't think they're going to be that much help. So, you got anything else you want to say about Atlanta?
No, I'm ready to move on to the next one,
all right.
Which is Buccaneers.
Yep, it is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I absolutely despise this team. It sucks that I have to speak on them because of how much I hate them. Like, when Tom Brady came to the NFC South and joined the Buccaneers, it almost kind of broke my heart a little bit. And then he went on and ended Drew Brees' career. So I'm kind of happy to see this team where they're at right now. I'm gonna be blunt with you. I actually think once again Tampa Bay will surprise a lot of people. I think they come out winning 1 or 2 games in their first 2 weeks. I think they beat Chicago. I think they have a chance at beating Minnesota. Most likely will not. And I think there'll be a big wow factor, and everybody like, oh, Tom Brady's gone. It doesn't matter. But at that point, you've still got Baker Mayfield at quarterback.
You said Minnesota first game?
I think they have a chance. I don't know if they do win it, but I think they beat Chicago.
Yeah, no, we definitely could see a win here. I'm just, dude, I can't hop on the Baker Mayfield train, even if he does play. It looks like he will be playing. It's just, I don't see light, bro. That's all it
You,
is.
see, as being a Panthers guy, so you had to watch him in Carolina for how many games?
And it was just rough to see him, especially last year at the end of the season with the Rams. I know he kind of won that one game, but it was a bit atrocious to watch.
He had a little bit of bright spots, but a lot of dark spots. So I think I don't really think we need to go through their entire schedule for this team. I think we just need to. It's kind of this. See this. I hate doing this, but like this team, Tampa Bay is kind of like a breeze over team, in my opinion.
They did. One thing that I think they're going to be making some big changes on the defense is I know they were able to re-sign Devin White, or they're going to be able to re-sign Devin White.
Yes.
But they did have to release Levante David, correct?
I think they might have. If I'm not mistaken, he might have came back to the team again.
Okay.
But yeah, their defense is going to be. I think their defense will be great. I think the biggest problem, as you were saying, is Baker. The QB play is going to be non-existent in Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. They just drafted Kalijah Cansey out of Pitt, who ran an incredible 40 time, and he's a defensive tackle. People calling him mini Aaron Donald. So you could see good defensive performances by the Tampa Bay, but the whole fact that their offense is going to be lacking. They still got guys like Mike Evans, Rashad White, Chris Godwin.
And we're probably going to be seeing a lot more running in this team, definitely.
A lot more. Which I was surprised not to see with Leonard Fournette all these years, but obviously they had Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. So Tom Brady was able to go throw 50 passes a game. So basically going into Tampa Bay season for me, I got them at 3-4 wins max. I even wrote here on my schedule that I wrote here, on their bye week they get an L because that's how bad they're going to be. Yeah.
All right.
I got them losing on their bye week. So for me, I got them at 4-13. I think every game they win is going to be an upset win. I just genuinely don't see them being a team that can go 0-17. Possible, but I don't see it. There's only one team I see going 0-17. That'd be the Cardinals. But that's basically that's really all I got to say for them, other than Byron Leftwich gone. OC's gone. We'll see how the offense looks now this year. It's with the new change in quarterback play and then the new change in OC, it'll be a lot different Buccaneers team.
I still think there's light here, especially with the wide receiver core we have here. I don't think that's something we should just cancel out because of some of the other defects they may have on the team as of right now. It's just a matter of, obviously they're not the ones throwing the ball, so it's a matter of, are they going to be able to produce what they need to be able to produce to win these games?
Yeah. Yeah, because, you look at it back when Jameis Winston was the quarterback. Mm-hmm. That 30 touchdown, 30 interception season, it's not like they went 3-4, 3-13. They went 7-9 that year. So they still got the weapons. It's just, at the end of the day, it is how you get it to the weapons, not can the weapons do everything.
Yeah. All right, we're moving on to which team are we?
We will move on from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a team that I know is dear to your heart, but can stay as far away as they can to mine. This is going to be the Carolina Panthers. Big hopes as a Carolina guy, huh?
Yeah, no, I think we definitely switched over on a lot of things. Coaching. I know we did a lot of off-season work. With the coaching and obviously signing players, the draft, we made a lot of big changes in the draft, especially with moving up, and we're gonna definitely see a lot of different energy coming from our team than we did last year. We had a lot of hype at the beginning, and then it downturned really fast, and I think we're gonna be able to maybe start on the slower end this year, but we're definitely going to be picking it up as it just goes on, because we're going to definitely be working on, Bryce Young, making him get in the scheme, and yeah.
I would say I kind of agree with you. Like last year, you were saying the hype a little bit.
Yeah.
That was kind of because of the whole Baker Mayfield. We thought, maybe he had that playoff year with Cleveland the 2 years before, and then last year he played the whole year with like a hurt shoulder. So it was like, it's going to be a healthy Baker on Carolina. He's got the guy like DJ Moore. He's got the Terrence Marshall. I don't know. So that's kind of like the big hype, and then obviously they've got the hype now with Bryce Young.
Yeah, and we definitely have a lot of bigger names, especially playing. Even though we got rid of CMC. We now have Miles Sanders, which is definitely coming off the Super Bowl. That would be awesome. We have Hayden Hurst. We haven't had many of receiving tight end.
Since
That's
Olsen.
something
Huh.
exactly that's now that we do, and we definitely had some veterans come in at the receiving core, hopefully to help out with just kind of developing our young team that we have. That's probably our one main issue this year is these last few years we definitely have had a young team. It's just a matter of if we can move from a young team to an experienced team that is able to win games. Because we've had, everyone puts us as an underdog to win some pretty big games, and we always what's the word?
Underachieved.
Underachieve just due to our inexperience as as players.
Yeah. Like for instance, they got to talk about that wide receiver room too. They've got Adam Thielen, who's going to be that big veteran presence for the young guys. And then they just drafted Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss, which could be a good asset for Bryce Young. But we'll head into their schedule to start off. As we said, with Atlanta, I thought Atlanta comes out and wins this game because of Carolina's lack of a little bit of fluidity and getting ready for the season. So I got Atlanta winning the first game. Carolina starting 0-1. But I do have Atlanta beating New Orleans.
You think so?
I think
I have opposite. I have winning first game, not having it quite ready to go for the Saints, losing to the Saints.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the same thing with the Saints. My problem with the Saints is first 4 weeks. There has not been a year in maybe 10 years that the Saints went 2-0 to start the season.
Okay.
So I think obviously that sounds a little superstition, a little bit superstition, but the Saints always seem to have their early season woes first 3-4 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
So I think Carolina's able to pick up that game against them, and that's going to be because not due to the Carolinas having an elite day, a great day.
Yeah.
It's going to be to the fact that New Orleans is going to have a bad day. I think Derek Carr will have a little bit of an iffy day, connecting with some of his receivers, and then we don't know with Kamara what he's going to do. So I think Carolina picks that one up.
Okay.
But then the next week, I think they do drop one in Seattle.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, especially with Seattle. They are surprised this last year. No one thought they were going to be great. They turned out to be pretty damn good. I think, especially with experience they have over there in Seattle, I'm going to have to say we do lose this one. Vikings. We have Vikings at home. I think we definitely can take this one.
I said they did. I think they do.
Especially just at home. I think by then, week 4, we definitely get into the swing of things, figuring out what we are good at, what we're not good at.
I got Minnesota dropping it to Carolina. I think Carolina will, as you said, it's a home game. I think they'll have a little bit more things rallied up, be able to play at a better pace, a better consistency, which I think they will not have in Seattle in week 3. And as you were saying with Seattle, what a season from them, 9-8 last year. People thought they were going to go 1-16. But to talk about this game against Minnesota, I think Minnesota comes in a little bit too underprepared, thinking they're gonna have this under the bag after seeing the game like Seattle. I think they're gonna be a little too confident, and that's what's gonna happen with that game. And then for the next game, they've got another NFC North team. They're gonna be playing Detroit, which I have Detroit winning this one. I actually could have seen maybe a little bit of an upset from Carolina in this game. I just think once again, I think Detroit. They have a very struggling defense. Yeah. So that's something that will be helpful for Bryce Young. But I just think the fact that Detroit's offense last year was number 2, number 3 in the entire league for passing.
Yeah, Detroit's a tricky one. I mean, their losses last year, some of them were close, and sometimes they just did not perform. But that was not all the time. And I think, right now Detroit's kind of a hit or miss, but it could be. Detroit could have it all together already at the beginning of the season, and they could be swinging out fast. Panthers could be losing this one as well.
Yeah, because Detroit did have the worst defense in the league last year. They almost gave up 400 yards a game, but they were second in passing yards, right behind Kansas City, I believe, which is absolutely wild. Somewhere in there,
especially with Jared Goff.
With Jared Goff, who I actually call me crazy, dark horse MVP candidate.
This year?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Making a comeback?
I think so. And then, but we'll get into next week, which they go and travel to South Beach, where I see them leaving South Beach very upset. I think they have a bad game against Miami. I think Miami. I have high hopes for Tua all the time. I think Tua, if he can stay healthy, will be a good quarterback. So I've got Miami winning this one, and then that will put them into their bye week. Unfortunately, on a loss for Carolina, but that gives them a lot of time to reflect, see what they did wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I do think I do see a world where these people can win this one against Miami. I mean, you see, obviously Tua has some issues being healthy, but I think if they just play good, sound football, I believe Miami's not a team that they should have to struggle with. I don't think.
Yeah, I get that 100%. But that means we're gonna be at the bye week now. I've got Carolina at 2-4 at this point of the season. I think by the sounds of it, you've got them around what 2-4, 3-3 right now.
I got them 3-3.
3-3. Okay. But that will bring us to the next game, which I think is a.
Is it bad for me to say that I'm just gonna call this a win?
It's not. I think I 100% agree. I think Houston, as I said earlier with Atlanta, which surprisingly I gave Houston. I actually did not give Houston. I gave Atlanta the win. Houston's just too young of a team. Back.
Okay.
I gave Atlanta the win against Houston.
I just wanna-
Carolina's getting this game. It's not much to say. But however, the next week against Indianapolis.
Indy's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah, they got some key components that are going to be playing huge roles this year. It's I mean, we're talking about the Panthers here. I think by here they have it rolling, and I do think Panthers do take this one, especially it's at home. Rookie QB.
Yeah. Going against another one though.
Only time will tell though for these.
Yeah, and I think Anthony Richardson will at this point of the year will be very poor-ish on the passing side, but I still think he'll be heavily relying on his running side, and I think the threat of Anthony Richardson in the backfield will also open up opportunities for guys like Michael Pittman Jr. downfield, Alec Pierce downfield, and then hopefully see a good year from Jonathan Taylor. We'll get to see his opportunities open up.
Yeah.
So that's that game, and then next game we've got against the stud and Justin Fields with the Chicago Bears. I gave Carolina this one. I think it's going to be a very close one. I just think that Carolina's ability to pass the ball will be better than Chicago's, and with Chicago having the fourth worst defense from last year, and in my opinion, not making too many pushes and striving too hard to make improvements on that side of the ball. I've got them losing this one and Carolina getting that win that they needed after the loss against Indy.
Agreed. And then Dallas. Dallas is a tricky one. Who knows with Dallas? It could be amazing one week, terrible one week. I mean, I feel like if Dallas stays healthy, their offense could dominate ours.
I think that's the big thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they can be amazing on defense one week, non-existent the next week.
They are a very shaky defense. They're streaky.
I'm going to have to say Carolina loss here against the Cowboys.
I'm going to agree. That's going to put Carolina at 4-6 for me right now. I just think Dallas's offense is always got the potential to be the best offense in the NFL at points. Their defense has the potential to be a top 5 defense at some points. But that's if they perform to that level. You don't see that happen all the time. Like, for instance, in the divisional round this last year against San Francisco, the Dallas offense looked absolutely horrendous. But the Dallas defense looked very good that game. And then you look at the wild card game. Then they had that game where both of them looked good. So it's just you got to find that perfect medium, and Dallas hasn't been able to find it. But I think they'll have that perfect medium against Carolina. And then for me, that puts Carolina in a little bit of a weird spot for their season right now. I think this is where they go, hey, we're 4-6 right now. We want to win this division. It's do or die for us.
Yeah.
That's where I give Carolina a win. in their next 2 games, which is against Tennessee and Tampa Bay, both on the road. The Tampa Bay game's kind of a gimme. The Tennessee one, I think, is going to be because I think the Carolina defensive line will step it up and be able to limit Derrick Henry. Obviously, limiting Derrick Henry doesn't mean like limiting to under 100 yards. It's for like limiting to under 150.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's what I see happening in that game.
Yeah, and so Tennessee, they have Treylon Burks right over at wide receiver. I mean, we have lock him down. I mean, then there's Derrick Henry. What other huge weapons do you think they have that can really, I think, affect
Yeah,
them?
that's the thing is, you put J.C. Horn on Treylon Burks. What else are they going to really do? Yeah, then you can put every other guy focused primarily on Derrick Henry. And at this point of the season, I do have Will Levis in at quarterback, but this is when I think he starts to calm down. He'll have a couple, 2-3 weeks where he really steps up.
I feel confident we can take a win here.
I think that they could confidently go into Tennessee and come out with a victory, and then the very next week go into Tampa Bay and get a win.
Revenge game, baby.
Yeah, get it.
Assuming he's still QB.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing with Tampa is just Baker. I think Baker will have a terrible game against them. I think don't be surprised when J.C. Horn gets an interception that game. And then heading into New Orleans, one of the hardest places to play, the Superdome.
Yeah.
I've got Carolina dropping that one to the New Orleans Saints.
I had to check the date right there.
Yeah, it's December 10th. They're going to drop that one. I think New Orleans is going to have everything situated towards this part of the season. However, they do have a very difficult stretch. We'll get to them after this. I think they have a little bit of a shaky stretch heading into that final end of the season. But I do think that New Orleans tends to beat Carolina in New Orleans, despite other than this last season where the Saints actually held Carolina to 52 passing yards and still lost. I think that's going to be the case. The defense will be able to hold Bryce Young down, unlike they did at week 2, and I think the offense will have everything together. So that puts, puts Carolina at 6 and 7-ish. So they're still in competition for this division because this division's not going to be great next year. It's probably not going to be one of the best. I still think the AFC South is probably going to be the worst one next year. But I've got them at 6 and 7 right now. This is still, once again, make or break. They play Atlanta. They play Green Bay, both at home. I say they pick up both of these. The Green Bay one could be a little toss-up depending on how Jordan Love plays throughout next year. But I think the Atlanta game is pretty much a win for them. I think they get the revenge from the Week 1 game, in my opinion. And then for Green Bay, I just think it's going to be the fact that Green Bay's defense last year was a little bit of the middle of the pack. I don't see them improving or a little bit. I thought Green Bay's defense was going to be really good last year. They weren't as good as we expected, so that's something I kind of see happening again next year.
Yeah, I see we definitely taking up the win against the Falcons. As far as Green Bay, I'm going to probably go on the limb to say we do take the limb. I just don't see, is Jordan Love going to stay consistent, especially when his first year, when Aaron Rodgers even struggled a little last year with that offense. Is Jordan Love going to be able to jump in and immediately do a full phenomenal season? I don't know, but I'm gonna say Carolina does take this win, both these wins, and then we are at Duval. Is that how you say their hometown?
Duval County, Jacksonville, Florida. Play the Jags. I already went over this game. Jacksonville took it, in my opinion. I just think Jacksonville. With the good defense they have, it's not Saxonville-esque defense that they had last year with the takeaways. But Jacksonville's defense will be a little too much, and then Trevor Lawrence, who's going to have a great season in my opinion, will just be too much for the Carolina defense to handle. That's what I've got them doing.
Yeah, I feel like this game comes down to experienced offense against offense, and right now Trevor Lawrence at this point of the season and this point of his career is going to be phenomenal.
And he's got a great coach in Doug Peterson. Great coach. And then heading into our final game of the season, I've got Carolina at 8-8, putting them at 9-8 with a win over Tampa Bay at home. I think they're at this situation where them and New Orleans are like okay, one of these teams is going to be win and you win the division, lose and you might not win it. I think that win's going to be crucial for Carolina in their playoff hopes. As we saw, a 9-8 team made it into the playoffs last year with Seattle, so I still think they could have a chance being a wild card spot because they're not my division winner. I have them at second in the division. I don't know about you. I think you might.
Yeah, coming into this podcast, I really was wanting to believe that we could be a division leader, and I still think there's a hope for that. I'm gonna talk about the Saints first. I want to hear your argument.
Hear my argument.
I want to hear the argument on why the Saints should be at the top, and I'll go from there.
Yeah. So 9-8 for me from Carolina. Talking about the Saints, we'll get to it. The final team in the NFC North, not NFC North, NFC South. Sorry. But we've got them playing Tennessee to start off. And I'm just gonna say now they're gonna beat Tennessee. I said it last a couple days ago. But regardless of the schedule, I kind of want to point out big things about New Orleans. We have Joe Woods as our new defensive coordinator. Now, Dennis Allen's the head coach. He calls the defensive plays most of the time. Mm-hmm. He was the former DC for New Orleans before Sean Payton left in 2021. And he was from Cleveland. He was actually a part of Dennis Allen's staff back in Oakland, back when he was the head coach. He was the defensive backs coach for Oakland, which wasn't very good back then. But Cleveland has had a pretty decent defense they've had pretty good defenses recently, and he's been their defensive coordinator. That's my big thing for them is that new defensive coordinator. It's going to be a good one for a very good defensive line, defensive unit, who was top 5 in yards allowed per game last year, top 10 in points allowed per game. I think that's going to be their big bright spot is the defense still. However, I think the rushing defense is going to be a big question mark for them. And since 2017, they've been one of the best rushing defenses from 2017 to 2021. They, on average, gave up, I think, one 100-yard rusher per game. And now this last year, they gave up 130 per game. Yeah. Which is not good for their standards. And then they've got a good secondary. They've got Marshawn Lattimore, who's a top 10 corner. They've got Alontae Taylor, who's going to be a very young stud. Just a great player. Paulson Adebo, who has the potential. Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, who, if he can stay healthy and out of trouble, which he was in trouble last year with all these arrests. But that's my big thing about them. But I said they beat Tennessee week 1. As I said, I think they lose to Carolina week 2. And then I actually have them dropping to Green Bay in week 3. Winning in Tampa against Tampa in week 4. So I got them first 4 weeks going 2-2. I just think with Green Bay is going to be one of those early season woes.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say that, yeah, you can go on a limb and say that. I definitely think you guys could be picking up the win, but we do need to. Worst case could happen here.
Yeah, I that's what I think is. Watching this team for how many years, just watching how many times they start 1-1, 1-2. I've never really seen them start those first 3 weeks 3-0, 2-1. Mm-hmm. And obviously they'll be 2-2 after the Tampa Bay win, which not really much to say. I think they're just gonna go out there and absolutely manhandle Tampa Bay, as they usually do. It seems like Mike Evans, your father is Marshawn Lattimore. You can't do anything against us. And then heading into the next 2 games, it's New England and Houston, both on the road. I'm giving them both the win here. I think New England will have a little bit of a down year compared to their past couple years.
For sure.
With Mac Jones. This is when New England finds out that they finally find out Mac Jones is not the answer. And then with Houston as well, C.J. Stroud has got a great future ahead of him, I think, but it's just too early for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, spot on. I mean, New England's rough. I'm not a Mac Jones fan. I think I'm a Bailey Zappi guy. That's his name, right?
Yeah, Bailey Zappi.
All right, next one we have. I can't read this.
That is going to be Jacksonville.
Okay.
I've given Jacksonville the win here. I just think this is going to be a case of the Saints' good defense going against a good offense, and Most of the time, back about 10, 15 years ago, the good defense would win that matchup. But with how the league is today, good offense beats good defense.
Yeah.
So that's basically what it is. It's good offense is going to beat the good defense. Jacksonville's going to win that one in the Superdome. But then they go to Indianapolis, and they come out of Indianapolis with a win in Week 8. That puts the Saints at 5-3, heading into Week 9. That's what I think. So, Week 9, Chicago. I think that's another win. Once again, Chicago it's a young team.
Yeah.
Justin Fields is going to be a hassle to contain. But I just don't think the defense is good enough to stop the Saints.
Where are we?
Week 10. Week 10, Minnesota.
Okay, Minnesota. I'm thinking Saints.
You think Saints are going to win this one?
I don't know. I don't know, dude. I think they lose going into the bye week.
I would agree with you on that. I have the Saints losing this one as well.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be the case of Marshawn. We saw his last year. Marshawn Lattimore could not contain Justin Jefferson. I think that's going to happen again. This puts the Saints into their bye week at a respectable 7-4. I think 6-4. Yeah, it's going to be 6-4. Very respectable record. First place in the division at the time. However, I think the second half of the season is a little bit more up and down. In my opinion, they've got a little bit more games that they could swing. Starting off with the game at Atlanta in Week 12. I could see Atlanta beating them, but I don't. I think Atlanta wins. Atlanta loses, sorry. And then in Detroit, against Detroit, they lose to Detroit. So they're going to go 1-1 coming out of the first 2 weeks in the bye.
Yeah, I think you have it spot on right there, especially with, at Detroit against that offense. Especially, yeah. I got no words.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, it's just going to be the case of, I think, again, good offense versus good defense. And then, however, it could be a toss-up game because of how bad Detroit's defense has been.
Yeah.
But I just don't see that. I think the Saints, as we saw a lot last year, failing to capitalize on third downs, failing to capitalize on fourth and shorts, failing to capitalize in plus territory. I think that's something that happens a lot in that game, giving them that loss, putting them at 7-5 right now. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to get the win against Carolina, putting them at 8-5. They're going to lose to New York. I think the Giants going to have another pretty decent season this year. Putting the Saints at...
How can you win? Why do you think they're going to be losing against the Giants?
I think the Giants, how they played last year, I think will have a very similar season for them. Mm-hmm. I think Saquon will be able to attack the Saints' rushing defense problems and have a good game. And then Daniel Jones with his legs as well.
You filled some holes, though, especially on the pass rushing side of things. I mean, do you not think you guys' pass rush is going to even improve against the Giants?
I think it could.
Or, sorry, rush defense. My bad.
I think it could. But my thing is the Giants have a very youngish offensive line that is good at times. And they've got good blockers. So, just when you have a guy like Saquon in the backfield, it's just a powerful back with speed. That's why I have them dropping that one. But then I actually have them dropping it to Los Angeles. I actually have the Rams beating them.
Yeah.
And this is obviously if they have a full healthy roster. I don't see the Saints being able to contain Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp as a duo. That's not going to happen. And then Jalen Ramsey will be able to shut down whoever the number one receiver is that game. So that's why I have them dropping that. But then I have them finishing the season with 2 more wins. I think they win the rest of the year.
Divisional, it looks like.
They're 2 divisional games. Beating Tampa Bay, beating Atlanta. Basically, in my opinion, locking up the number 1 spot. 2 must-win games for them as Carolina is going to be 1 game behind them. That's I got them at 10-7, being first place in the division. Mm-hmm. You can call me biased as much as you want, but at the end of the day, I think the Saints have the most complete roster out of every team in the NFC South. They've got enough veteran presence. They've got the young stars that they have to the point where they have enough mentorship to help with the young guys, and they've got the young guys to help kind of make up for some of the older guys, like, regressions like speed and agility. You've got a healthy returning Michael Thomas, who, if he hopefully can stay a full season, I would not be surprised if he has another 1,000-yard season. You have Olave coming off of a 1,000-yard season. You've got Alvin Kamara, who just got his whole criminal case situated.
Amazing.
Which is crazy how he managed to get out of that kind of. You got Jamal Williams, who just came to the team, who is coming off of the league leading 17 rushing touchdowns. And then you have Kendre Miller, the running back from TCU, who had 8 yards per carry, may I add, in the college football playoff semifinal, which was insane. And obviously the big thing is the new quarterback in town, Derek Carr, who had a little bit of a down year with the Raiders. But he's coming into coming back with his original coach that actually drafted him, in Dennis Allen. But I think Derek Carr could have a good year this year. So that's my big thing with him is if he can limit his interceptions, he's got weapons for it. This team is, as I said, most complete. That's why I got him winning the division. On your standpoint, you got an idea of?
Yeah, I do, and so I think right here I think you won this argument. I mean, I think Saints probably gonna squeak out the top, Panthers right at the behind them. But I do think one wrong win, one wrong lose, definitely can make the difference in who wins this division. I mean, Carolina surprisingly wins an upset game where they win something that we didn't think they were going to win, and Saints lose something we didn't think they were going to lose, and that could definitely shift the whole tide of the sea. And I feel like it's just only time will tell, but I definitely think most likely Saints do take this win in the division.
Yeah. It's a really big thing, especially with this division. You can expect teams. You never know what's going to happen. You can expect teams to expect the unexpected, I mean, you look at last year. Nobody expected the winner of this division to be 8-9, especially with a Tom Brady-led Buccaneers. But yeah, that's all the 4 teams for us. Heading with. So to wrap the divisional areas up, we got Tampa Bay at 4th, at 4-13, Atlanta at 6-11 in 3rd, Carolina for me at 2nd with 9-8, and then New Orleans at 1st with 10-7. 2 winning teams, 2 losing record teams, but that's all I've got for today. If there's anything else you like to talk about, we can. Or you think you're good?
No, I think I'm good. I appreciate Bryce for having me on here.
Yeah, of course, man.
First podcast, a bit awkward for me, but hey, it's okay. I love everything this man's doing, and he's amazing at it so far.
I appreciate it, man.
Anyways, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Well,
close it out.
We'll start closing this out then. Once again, this was the second of 8 divisions we're doing today. Once again, I appreciate Jackson for coming out and being on this episode. Although he's not used to this, I've got a little bit of experience. I'm still kind of new to this whole thing, but I think he did great for the pretty much no experience of being on an episode like that, something like that. And it was a fun one. I always love talking Saints football and NFL football, and I know he loves talking Carolina, the Panthers, and so that's about it I've got for today. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more episodes. We've got more down in the videos. Go to the playlist. Look for I got the football and the baseball podcast in separate playlists, as long as a playlist with every episode. And then if you're on Spotify, follow it. Make sure to listen to everything if you want to catch up with all the news that I've been giving out. It traces back to Super Bowl 56 with the Rams and Bengals. I have stuff from all the way from then to now. And then if you're listening on Apple, make sure to follow the Instagram at Tello Talks Sports. That's where I give updates of when stuff's coming out, when new content comes out, where I make posts about these episodes and sports. And then also, as I said, I will have his Instagram on the YouTube caption. His Instagram will also be shouted out on my Instagram. And so that's gonna be it for me today. That's it for him today.
Thank you.
And that's gonna be all. We will be out. See you next week. And thank you for listening.
See you.